Number 7, 2006. I know many loved 2006, and some thought it was one of the best years, so I'm sure I won't make many friends by placing 2006 so low on my list. Let's start by taking a flashback to late 2005. The Paraka had just been released for our viewing pleasures, and we learned that they did not wear masks but instead had these large, revealing teeth. I was happy that we were done with the Metro Nui story and back in the present time, but the story did not go in the direction I would have liked. Once 2006 got underway, I was greatly disappointed in the story for many reasons. First of all, the story got far too dark for Bionicle. I will state that many liked how dark it became, but I feel that that was not the right direction for Bionicle to take. Bionicle started with biomechanical characters fighting evil animals and vile creatures with their Toa tools. Not weapons or guns or anything, just simple Toa tools.
Now this is a Toa tool!
Well, all that changed in 2006, and after hating the dark tone, the new island, the Paraka, the new comic artist, and the overall story, I stopped paying attention to Bionicle. Also, being a teenager at the time may have been a playing factor. Perhaps I thought I was growing out of Bionicle and I felt that it was a kid's thing, so anyone still in their teens may have a different look on 2006 than I did. Now, after recently reading through all the books again, I got to the 2006 storyline and I was surprised how much I turned around, from hating it to saying it was pretty good. And here's why. I still did not appreciate the dark tone of 2006. That didn't change. Nor did my dislike for the location of Voya Nui. But the adventure of trying to find the Mask of Life to save the universe was pretty good. The books were all awesome, and my jaw dropped when the Paraka were able to defeat the Toa Nuva. I was afraid they had been killed. Since the story was so dark already, why not throw some more death in the story? Since I had no interest in the story, I only bought 3 Paraka and Toa Jala, and I had mixed feelings about them. I do like how the Toa can be positioned in practically any position possible, but I don't care for the new torso, which wouldn't go away. And I feel the heads could have been better designed. I can't complain too much about the sets since I got so few, but they did have a large assortment of action figures, and the playsets looked really nice. The comics were not as good as the books. As I've already stated, the new artist, Stuart Sager, did not capture my attention as much as Randy Elliott had, and the comics, as has always been the case with Bionicle, are not able to capture as much of the story as the books do. I usually only read the comics for the visuals, but I did not have the desire under the new artist. The characters, however, I appreciated much more after reading the 2006 books a second time. We got our old Matoran friends, now Toa, and we got to know the Paraka, which I thought were very well written characters, and the conflict of being partners but also enemies due to their own selfishness really made their actions unpredictable, and you never knew who next was going to be betrayed, or potentially murdered. The mystery about Voya Nui, the Paraka, and the Mask of Life and all its guardians made the story engaging, and many secrets were revealed, especially about the history of the Paraka in the book Legacy of Evil. The collectibles, much like 2007, were a joke. Oh goody, a box of 10 3-color little plastic spheres with barely a purpose? Wow, I'll take 20 of them. And outside of these 3 colors, there were only 4 other colors available at the time between the Paraka, Toa, and the playsets, so 7 total collectibles for 2006. Pathetic. I also had no care for the comic book style flash animations. They often felt too short, they had no dialogue, and were often these interactive games. The animations did nothing to continue the story, and I find them virtually useless. The videos for each Paraka was good, but the 100% this, 0% that I found silly. And don't even get me started on the Paraka rap. Although many enjoyed 2006, I did not go with the crowd. And even though I like it now more than I did in 2006, I still have no strong connection to it. So after tallying the points, 2006 gets a 58% rating, mainly due to my dislike of the location, the dark tone, and the collectibles. It was not a failure, but still I find it was a step in the wrong direction. Number 6, 2005. Some may have called 2005 the year Bionicle went downhill, but I believe it's better than people say. The Toa return and get turned into half Toa, half Rahi creatures with their new animal instincts interfering with their goal. The arcs that the characters go through to defeat their inner turmoil is exciting, and we get to know them more through their conflicts. The Rahaga were also neat characters that were able to guide the Toa through their struggles. I also really liked the setting of the monster-infested Metru Nui. It was nice still being in the same location as we were the previous year and not in some new, random, unknown location far, far away. There are only a few sets from 2005 that I don't own. I wanted to have all the Hordika to go with my Toa Metru, even though the Hordika did look absurd, but I guess that was the point, being infected animal Toa and all, so I can't really criticize. I thought the Vizrak looked awesome, so I bought all of those, and the Titans looked cool, so I bought them, and the Rahaga were cheap, so might as well get them too. Above all though, I desperately wanted the playsets, especially Battle of Metru Nui. I don't know how much time I spent just watching the commercial over and over, or just staring at the box in stores. Again, marketing at its finest. I had so much fun with that set. Even in high school I was still playing with it. There was just so much one could do. I even made random videos with the family video camera. Some of you may be wondering why I bought the Titans from 2005 but had no care for the ones in 2006, even though Brutaka and Axon looked pretty awesome. It must have been my perspective of the story. Perhaps I quit buying sets in 2006 because it was my way of protesting my dislike of the story. There was plenty of mystery to keep the fans asking questions. Who were Rudaka and Sidorak, and why did they go to Metru Nui? Who were the Vizrak and where did so many come from? Why was there a cataclysm and what caused it? We know the answers to these questions now, but at the time, the mystery was strong in 2005. We also got questions answered through learning about the Toa Haga, Toa Nidiki, and finally explaining why Nuju talks in clicks and whistles. I loved the Ratuka spinners. I could spend hours playing with those things, seeing how high and far I could get them. I did unfortunately waste a bunch of money buying 14 packs of spinners that I kept in a plastic container. Yeah, that wasn't the smartest thing I've done. The spinners came in 13 different colors in the packs, and there were the colors that came with the Rahaga, so it wasn't too difficult to find all the colors. And they each had a different power, so each was unique, and getting the codes for the Kanoka Club was always nice. But the Ratuka did not come close to the collectability of previous years. The books were fantastic. Time Trap is still my favorite Bionicle book, and Challenge of the Hordika is also one of my favorites. The Bionicle Encyclopedia was introduced, and I felt that was a brilliant idea. And the Birth of a Dark Hunter story explained the fall of former Toa Nidiki. To be honest, I have nothing to complain about with the 2005 books. The comics were pretty good as usual, with good old Randy Elliott as the artist. But sadly, this was his last year, as the artist Stuart Sager was taking over, and y'all know how I feel about his style. There were also the 4 Brickmaster edition comics with alternate covers drawn by Toby Dukowitz, and they have no other purpose than being cool collectibles. And of course, who could forget the 3rd Bionicle movie, Web of Shadows? Well, I could, no problem. I liked the book much better than the movie, and I'm not sure what it was, but I had very little interest in this movie, which is strange because I was super excited to watch the first 2. Bionicle.com had these animations and I wasn't too impressed with them. I did like how the story explained why the Mask of Light was encased in stone, and seeing the Makoki stones again was kind of neat. To me, nothing could compare to the animations of 2001 to 2003. I really enjoyed 2005 and I will defend it to anyone who didn't like it. Yes, it did have a dark atmosphere, but it didn't go as far as 2006 did. Overall, I give 2005 a 72% rating, with just the collectibles being its main flaw. Number 5. 2008. This was the year I expected Bionicle to end. 2008 wrapped everything up in the Motunui universe, solved most of the unanswered questions, and with that ending, Bionicle could have just said, "And the rest is up to you." And I would have been okay with that. It may be easier for me to say that now because I know what happened to Bionicle the following year, so looking back, yeah, Bionicle should have ended in 2008. I loved the overall story. The original 6 Toa were back in action again 1 year after their arrival, and they were welcomed into a whole new world in the center of the universe. Yeah, that really made no sense at the time. This year really felt like the story's climax, and that this was the moment that the Toa were finally going to awaken Motunui. I felt that 2008 had some of the best characters in the whole franchise. We get our classic Toa friends with their awesome personalities, but we are also introduced to new characters, the Makutas. The Makutas were well written and really fascinating characters. My favorite by far is Krika. The way he warns Gali to leave Kartanui is so un-Makuta-like of him, and he seems to show compassion. He also tries to warn his fellow Makuta Gorast, but she does not listen, and I was furious with her after what she did to Krika. But after feeling her grief after realizing Pterodax's betrayal, I didn't take pleasure in her death. We also learn about how evil Makuta Pterodax really is. He sends his fellow Makutas to Kartanui, knowing full well that when Motunui is awakened, all the Makuta there will die. He just sent his fellow brothers to die for his own personal gain, and that was the evil side of Makuta we hadn't fully experienced. Also, Batil's mask power to summon past versions of himself to the present, although really cool, is just screaming for a mess of time paradoxes to ensue, so I won't get into it. Since I loved the story and characters so much, loving the books was no hard task. Both Swamp of Secrets and The Final Battle are 2 of my favorite Bionicle books, and reading about the history of the Toa before they arrived on Motunui was just amazing. The short stories were also a great addition to the Bionicle story, with Takanuva entering alternate universes where life would have been different if certain events did not occur, and it was also great to see the Brahaga and Toahaga again. The comics were also much more appealing, with new artist Lee Gallagher taking over Sager. Thank heavens. The sets I thought were pretty good. I thought the Fantoka, other than Pohatu being orange, were really well designed, as were the bat-like Makuta. The Mystica, however, were not as cool. The armor and design wasn't as good, and I could never get that silly Ghost Blaster to work in any favorable way, unlike the awesome Sky Blaster. I never bothered to buy the large and probably expensive battle vehicles, but from what I've seen in reviews, they appear to be very well designed sets. I thought the location was pretty neat, especially that it was the Toanuva's first home. The whole talk about it being at the center of the universe made absolutely no sense. Just like Metronui's location was explained as being inside a sphere with Motunui on top. What? I know they couldn't give away too much information because that would reveal that they were all living inside a giant robot, maybe. But most of us figured that out when we saw the very strange map of the Bionicle universe laid out in a humanoid form. But now we all know the answers to those questions, including many others, because this was the year they told us everything. If there was one thing that 2008 far exceeded in, it was the revealed secrets about the Bionicle universe. Enlightening us that the universe was really a giant robot was enough to give 2008 a 10 out of 10 in that department, but they went even further. We learned about the Toa's origins, that there were more Makutas, that there were light Matoran and they became Borak when their lives ended, and we learned that the Borak and Balrog were really the good guys. They were just awoken at the wrong time. This overdose of new information leads to a lack of mystery in 2008, but the whole idea about the giant Motunui robot, where it came from and who made it was enough to add at least some mystery to the year, which was of course all answered in 2010. The only flaw in 2008 from the criteria I'm going through is the collectibles, or should I say the lack thereof. There were no collectibles outside of collecting the sets and maybe the new masks and pieces if that's what you're into. Perhaps the Shadow Leeches could have been more varied and similar in design to the Krata or something, but there was no place this year for loads of collectibles in the story. And also, what is with the collectibles gradually getting worse and worse as the years go on? If I were to make a graph of the quality of the collectibles as the years went on, it would look like this. A sharp decline from what it once was. There were no online animations, but the 4-minute retrospective and the music videos from Cyro Shell were really entertaining. But most of all, who could forget the video of Motunui rising? I believe everyone was as shocked as I was when I first saw the video, but I was even more shocked when I saw the longer and updated version at the end of the year. Wait, so Makuta won? Wait, what? What just happened? Anyway, I thought 2008 was a great year for Bionicle, and it could have been much better if the collectibles had been given consideration. I give 2008 a 74% rating, a much needed year to free me from my disappointments of 2006 and 2007. but to lead me to the disappointments of 2009. Before I continue, I must address the order of these next 4 years. First of all, I love these next 4 Bionicle years, and I know I would not be a Bionicle fan if it weren't for the excellent management and design of the franchise through these early years. Secondly, the ratings on these years are all very close, so number 4 is not much lower than number 1. I wish I could make all these 4 years at number 1 to avoid debate, but I know I can't. And in reality, it's only very minor things that separate an amazing year from another amazing year. So without further ado,